Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode 366 of Stu and the Nun. Thank you all for joining us here on this June 12th, episode 366. And as you can see, I am joined by our guest already tonight. Mrs. Karen Hamilton is joining me from the great, is it the state of Virginia? It's not a state, Commonwealth of Virginia. My bad.
That's right, Commonwealth.
Karen, welcome. Oh, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Stu. It's good to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, people may say, wow, I've seen Hamilton before. There's a lot of Hamiltons coming on the show. You are the wife of, and I'll say the better half of past guest, good Cameron Hamilton, who's been on here, and you have now are stepping forward into the political limelight, and so we're glad to have you on. So yes, you are connected to Cameron, and very glad to have you on and see a family that is all in, as they say.
Sure. Absolutely, yeah. I think you guys have had Cameron on a couple of times, and so he's not new to your guests, but I am, and I'm happy to be here with you all and get into some of the issues here at stake in Virginia.
Yes, absolutely. So you are we're having you on because you are stepping forward in the political light. But before we get to that, can you give us, our viewers and listeners, a little bit of your background and kind of and what brought you here?
Sure. Yeah. I'm originally from North Carolina. I grew up right near Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So just military all around me. And that just kind of ingrained a sense of patriotism in me. But, early in my 20s, Cameron Hamilton came through. He was doing some medical training out at Fort Bragg as a young Navy SEAL. And I was working there as a young engineer, fresh out of college. And we met and were married within a year and moved up to Virginia Beach. And he did his time at SEAL Team 8 there. And we just kind of became Virginians at that time. We fell in love with the state. And after he got out in 2015, his career led him up to DC. He served in the State Department and then DHS. And so we settled in District 62, which is Orange County, Culpeper, Madison, and Greene County. And so we've been here for the past 10 years. And a couple of years ago, my husband felt a call to run for Congress just with all the things that were on the line. He wasn't successful in that, but we've just continued to fight because it's just too much at stake here for us to sit on the sidelines. And that's really why I'm here, because Virginia, while we have our federal government in good hands with Trump, Virginia's in a lot of trouble here, and it's all hands on deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very shocked, saddened, and surprised that Cameron did not win Virginia 7. But that was,
it's a difficult district.
I think I was probably the biggest supporter and proponent of his outside of the Commonwealth, much less District 7. I was talking. So, so you guys settled there. Also, I was born at Fort Bragg, actually, so kind of a connection. Just a long-time Army brat myself, besides doing it. But
thanks for yours as well.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for yours, because being a military wife, much less a wife of a Navy SEAL who is gone all the time, multiple times, most of the time with little to no notice, and raising some wonderful children is and keeping the home fires burning. I'm sure it made you, like it did make my wife, even though already tough and accomplished, just that much more. There's no such thing as men duties and women duties in a military household.
That's right. Yeah, you just kind of do what you have to do. And people always say, well, how do you guys do that? And we just, you know how it goes. You just figure out a way to do it. And it's a team effort. But, we both love this country, and it's an honor to be able to be around that community, the Navy SEALs, and also, be married into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Cameron ran, didn't have a successful one, but is still very much involved and always has been. And now you're stepping forward to be a delegate for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Is it 62? Is that the district?
District 62.
So what is that? So I guess what led you to when did you wake up one day or sitting on the back porch having a cup of coffee, go and just think, You know what? It's time for me to step into the breach. It's I need to
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I honestly, it didn't happen that way. Cameron is much better at being out in the forefront on things. He's a much better public speaker. He's much more diplomatic and polished than I am. So I never really saw myself running for any sort of office. I'd rather be behind the scenes. But what happened was our current delegate, Nick Freitas, which I'm sure many people in the podcast world are familiar with. He and his wife have become personal friends of ours, and we knew that he was stepping down, and he was, I think, his number one choice would have been Cameron to run in his spot, but at the time Cameron's serving in the Trump administration, and he knows that we have the same worldview, and he said, "Hey, would you consider running for office?" And at the time I was like, "Ugh, I'm not so sure about that because life is busy with my husband's career and the way he is. And like I said, I'm a homeschool mom, and so I just never really considered it. But when I saw what was coming down the pipe for us in Virginia, what was really on the line, I realized that now is the time to fight. It's not the time to be timid. And so I just decided to throw my hat in the ring and accept the challenge and fight for this district and fight for our Commonwealth.
so are you competing against anyone else for a primary, or how does that work? I'm just not familiar with the Virginia politics. I mean, I know
Yeah.
when Cameron ran, he was running to get, he was, how he did, but at the delegate level, how does that work?
Sure. Yeah, I am in a primary right now. I do have a guy in Madison County who I'm running against, and so we will know on Tuesday who's going to come out of that primary and run in the general against the Democrat Sarah Radcliffe, who's run a few times and very far left. So we'll see. We'll see who comes out of it. We're feeling good, but I do have a primary.
Okay, and then how is 62? Is it pretty heavy one way or the other, or pretty much down the middle, or how does that look? As
It's a strong red district. It's about like a 60, 65, 35 R plus, district. So whoever it's so basically the election is the primary as far as the delegate is concerned. Whoever comes out of this Republican primary is almost guaranteed to win in the general.
Okay, and how do you looking pretty good so far? You think your chances are
I think it's looking pretty good. We've been putting in the work on the ground, door knocking, phone banking, and trying to just be as transparent as we can be, because I feel like Americans are frustrated. They keep on sending people into office that are saying one thing and doing another, and we're all sick of it. I'm sick of it too. And so one of my goals has just been to be as transparent and as detailed as I can be on issues that people care about. And, then they get to make a choice on whether or not I'm the sort of representative they would like. But as long as I'm being transparent and they can see an authenticity there, I feel like I'm doing my job so far.
good, good. And obviously you've got some great endorsements, a number of delegates, including Nick, who obviously came to you and asked you. So you've got a number of folks, people, council members, all kind of folks, and so you've definitely convinced a lot of voices within your district. It sounds like that you're the right choice. I'm sure that's helping out.
Yeah, it has been, and it's interesting with Cameron's race. God just kind of set us up to form relationships with people that would lead into the next step of whatever was coming, for our family and how we could serve. And so some of those connections and those endorsements are just friendships that we have made over the past few years. And so yeah, it's been a blessing to have their support.
Yeah, yeah. And so when I look back at your past and career, I mean, you were a structural engineer, is that right?
That's right.
So you did that for a number of years. You decided to be a stay-at-home mom, and then is that when you decided to homeschool? I mean, not knowing how the schools are, I would think out there in more rural Virginia that you probably had some pretty good schools, but at some point you just decided to hang up, your career that you went to school for and say, I'm going to focus on my family. I'm going to focus on my kids. And how hard was that hard to do? You working so hard to get to there?
I it wasn't very hard to do, because once I became a mother, it became so clear of what the priority was. And because my husband's career often led him outside of the country, I just believed it was so important to have one person as the home base that gave kind of a security to the whole family. And it was honestly an easy decision. After I was out of the working world for a few years, while my children were very young. I enjoyed it so much, the time I had with them, that I was like, I can't even fathom going back into the into the working world. And so it was kind of a natural transition. It didn't feel like I was giving up this great career. It just felt like, hey, this is where God's leading me. This is what I want to do with life right now. So I don't regret it for a second. I'm thankful to have the opportunity. Thankful to have a husband that supports that decision.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Our paths are so similar. I mean, my wife was in politics and political appointee and things for years, and when we moved here, and she did not have to work. She finally got to focus on being a mom at home, and it's
Yeah.
something she has loved a lot. And many people try to push her back in to politics
Yeah.
and government. She was fine with where she was.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
I get that. But so you're running there. The primary is Tuesday.
Mhm.
And this mean for you to, I mean, is how the travel back and forth? Let's say you go on and win. You still going to are your kids still,
Yep.
homeschooled? And is,
Yeah.
is is Cameron going to become the lead teacher now, or how does that
No,
work?
no, actually, we have a citizen legislature here in Virginia, and so you're really only there for anywhere from 6 to 7, 8, 6 weeks a year, or 7 weeks a year on off years. And so it's really just an intense period of time where you're passing, 2 to 3 thousand bills. And so we only live about an hour and 20 minutes from the Capitol. And so I'll be I'll be driving down there. I'll either be driving back and forth. The kids will be with me some, and some they may be up here. Our kids are kind of at that age where um, they're in their early teens and able to stay home some here and there. So they're going to be with me a lot though, because they're going to bring their school books with them, and so they don't get out of class free pass on that. They're going to be bringing school books with me, working in my office, and still spending time with me. So.
Well, they should be learning a lot in civics. So
Yes, yeah, they will. I think it'll be a good
yeah,
experience for them.
yep, U.S. history, social studies, all that should be top notch.
That's right.
That's for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, this is just breaking. We said before the show that we're going to talk about current events and stuff.
Sure.
Man, doesn't get any current than this. I am just now getting alerts from contacts, and I'm seeing it. Just kind of let everyone know, Israel apparently has started preemptive strikes against Iran.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
they are and Israel's declared a state of emergency, and they have started attacks in Tehran. So you are hearing
Wow.
it. You are watching the show live. Apparently, there was a reason why the Department of Defense started moving family members out of the Middle East yesterday. And yep, so Israel apparently has started the bombing runs in Tehran. So
That is crazy.
who
I had
knows what
been
tomorrow's going to
whispers
be?
of, yeah, yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah, prayers for them over there, because that could get really messy really quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see where this goes. Just it may make everything happening in LA and all that become a viewpoint here really quick.
Right.
And focus will go other places. But
Yep.
yeah, so we'll kind of use that, I guess, to transition a little bit. But so when you
Sure.
think about when you talked about stepping forward and serving and a lot to do, are there a lot of things happening in the Northern Virginia, specifically in District 62, or really the whole Commonwealth? Because obviously you would be a voice for all the people of Virginia in passing votes that really concern you, that you really are worried that Virginia is not doing the right thing in the right areas.
Yeah, there's so many. It's a long list, but I'll give you sort of kind of the most motivating things that got me to throw my hat in the ring. That I'll kind of give you the background of where we're at in Virginia, and just how pivotal this year is. So Democrats control the entire legislature. They have the House and the Senate right now. And so for the past 4 years, we've had a Republican governor, Republican lieutenant governor, and Republican attorney general. And so we've really been able to hold off some of the worst of the legislation. But this past session, we kind of got a preview on what's ahead. And so this election, the entire House of Delegates is up for election, and then the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And so if we are not able to flip the House, Democrats have gotten halfway through the process of passing 3 different constitutional amendments. The first one being immediate reconstitution of rights for, or voting rights for violent criminals. So essentially, a child rapist would have um, more rights than an unborn child, which is crazy in our state. We have the abortion amendment, which would be the most liberal amendment in the entire nation. It's unlimited abortion at any reason for any time up until the moment of birth. And there's also an aspect of that one, which is a parental rights issue. There is no parental consent required for abortion for an underage young woman. And so a child could go get an abortion without their parents ever even knowing about that. So that's also, a medical safety issue as well, because it's not uncommon for there to be complications with that. And then the last one is the gay marriage amendment. So, our Constitution right now has marriage between a man and a woman. And I know people have moved very far left or moderate on this issue, but one of the concerns in particular about this amendment is that there is no religious exemption. And so churches would essentially be forced to ordain, unbiblical marriages, or they would face legal consequence. And so you'd be kind of seeing what we saw years ago with the Colorado bakers getting sued over not, baking the cake. You'd be seeing that across the Commonwealth of Virginia with churches that go against that. And so those are the most concerning constitutional amendments. But aside from that, Democrats came up with, 27, they got 27 bills through the legislature trying to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. Governor Youngkin was able to veto those, but they're just coming right back at us they're attacking our gun rights, our property rights, our religious liberties. The list goes on. And then we have major parental rights issues in Virginia. I know a lot of people have been seeing some of the things happening in Loudoun County. There were boys that were recorded from a girl that came into their locker room, and the boys complained about the girl being in there, and the boys were the ones that got in trouble for it. So it's like everything just seems to be backwards of what it should be. There are so many issues that are on the line, and this year's pivotal.
Yeah, it's I kind of take Virginia's. I live in the state of New York, the socialist state of New York, and it is it's a very state except for downstate, right? It's the
Right.
5 boroughs drive every population is there, so it doesn't matter what everyone else in the state thinks or votes for.
Yeah.
Looking at Virginia, as I have been working in out of the DC area for so long, I mean, it's all about that very northern Loudoun County area and that kind of stuff. It's pretty much drives. It seems like that's where it's got. I imagine that's got to be some of the heaviest blue areas of Virginia.
It is.
That
It's
the rest,
frustrating. Yeah.
yeah,
It's very frustrating because the rest of Virginia, like many other, blue states, is pretty red, but you just have a few blue dots, and they're getting bigger and bigger. And we have a hard time getting our base to turn out. And so I think that's really the challenge is getting our people, our like-minded people that love this country, that don't want government weighing into our personal lives and into the lives of our children. And don't want them being indoctrinated in schools. And so, we have to turn our people out and just make them realize that, yes, we're blessed to have Trump in the office, but so many of these battles are having to be fought at the state level. And we've got to wake up and pay attention and engage in primaries and not send a bunch of rhinos into the state houses.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can look at the 2020 election, right? I mean, people all thought it was at the national, but it was local judges, local town councils, assemblies that were changing election laws on the fly, right? And
Yeah.
making and disregarding what their state constitution said or whatever. It was all local people. It's why we say start from the school board to whatever it may be. You should be voting in every one of those because they could impact at the national level, even
Yeah.
when you. And we've seen it. We've seen the evidence now. It does
Yeah,
have an impact.
you're so right. 2020, I think, just taught us so many lessons, and we've got to. I know people hate bringing up COVID all the time, but it was such a time where we got to kind of see behind the curtain of things and really come to grips with the fact that we're so close to losing our freedoms, because we've let people in power that don't respect our individual liberties. So
Yeah.
it's troubling.
As a mom, I mean, let me ask you, because one of the things, of course, the COVID time, the whole lockdown was terrible for so many reasons for this country and the world. But I mean, there are a few, in my opinion, shining lights that came out of it. And I think one of it was parents finally paying attention to seeing what their kids were being taught. I mean, if I look back, and I've talked to a few people about this, I mean, when I look at like, is there anything good that came out of it? One was definitely people realizing what the government is capable of and what they will do, and how sheepishly so many people fell along with it. But to me, more importantly, was people sitting at home, zooming it from home to work, and sitting there listening to their kid next to them, what was being
Mhm.
asked, what they were being said. To me, that opened up a lot of eyes. I'd be interested what your thoughts are, even as a homeschool mom, and just as a mom in general.
Yeah, I think you're spot on about that. And my husband and I have been homeschooling the entire time, but we've gone to school board meetings for years because actually after COVID, after we realized what was going on, and after we saw this kind of woke ideology being pushed on the minds of our youth, it's a problem not just for people who have kids in these schools, but for all of us, because our future and our nation is being shaped in these schools. And for conservatives, we've kind of let the left completely take over the educational institutions, and now we're kind of dealing with the consequences of the last several decades of that. And so yeah, I think it's vitally important for parents to stay engaged, not just go there to complain once they realized something inappropriate happened, but stay on these people in authority, because these are our kids and this is our future. We were fortunate to be able to homeschool. I know a lot of people would like to homeschool, but they don't feel like they have the financial freedom to be able to do so. That's one of the things I'm wanting to bring to Virginia is school choice, and allow some sort of tax rebate to be given back to parents so they have a little bit more financial liberty to choose something else if public school isn't working for them.
Yeah, that's you know, and I remember back in the day, way back in the day, when we were first starting out our family, if you homeschooled, it was hard work. There was no infrastructure, well, there was no internet, there was no infrastructure. I guess you wrote off and ordered books and manuals, and you kind of, it was very austere, if you would, compared to now. From what I understand, talking to people at my church and stuff like that do it. I mean, there's full websites. They have proms. I mean, they get together all the people in our area for all the seniors, and they put together a prom for. I mean, it seems to be a lot more. There seems to be a lot more resources, and it's a lot easier, if you were to use the word, than it was 20 years ago.
I agree, and we're not all weird. I know homeschoolers get a bad rap that everybody's weird, and nobody knows social skills. But you're right. There's a whole lot of resources out there now, and we're in a co-op, and so our kids are going to school. They're only going to school once a week, but they're getting all their class instruction, and then they're given their assignments, and then we meet back up the next week. So it's a nice way to do school. It gives you the flexibility in your schedule to pursue a lot of other aspects of life, but also, have that connection at school and have that instruction from other teachers.
Yeah, I didn't know they did the co-op thing. I know we had friends of ours that did it, and like their son played on the local high school football team, but he was
Oh
homeschooled. But high
yeah.
school, I mean, yeah, it's and it's funny to see we're not all weird, because yeah, back in the day it was kind of, yeah, people at
Oh
homeschool
yeah,
like,
totally. It's like the denim jumpers, they everybody looked a little bit well, I
long,
won't say what.
yeah, long, like what cult or
Yeah,
religious
exactly.
religion are you?
Yeah. Come drink our Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's it. Not great, but good one.
That's
Uh,
right.
you're probably not remember that. I don't think you're a lot young. Um, so when you look at this, and you talked about a number of topics that are obviously important to Virginia, when you look at what's going on across the country, we talked about that a little bit with COVID, but when you look at what's happening even right now, President Trump's first election, then 4 years of somebody or an auto pen, we're not sure, and then now President Trump back in there, and everything has happened. I mean, his first 4 years was the election campaign. It was crazy. He was breaking trail and doing things no one had ever seen. Definitely said things no one has ever said in politics. now he's back in it. We had possible 2 attempted assassinations. He's back in it, all that kind of stuff, 2 attempt to impeach him.
Yeah.
And the Dems are not letting up. I mean, they played every card they had, but boy, they keep pulling other Trump, because they keep pulling hidden cards. I almost call them Trump, but bad pun. Pulling cards out of like everything. And when you look at that, what are you hoping that your voice in Virginia, if you get elected to represent District 62, how you have an impact on the national scene?
Yeah, well, I love President Trump's fight, and I think he's inspired a whole new generation of people stepping into the political arena that have that similar fight and just say, you know what, we're, the timid kind of defensive posturing and the nice khaki pants politicians, that era is over, and we have a new group of people that are a little bit more like Trump, a little bit. I'm not quite sure. Maybe raw and authentic is the way to frame that. But I'm thankful that we have a president who's courageous and puts Americans first. I think, you would kind of think that was common sense with the leader of a country, that they would put their people first. But it's, after we had 4 years of Biden, and then Trump, and then prior to that we had Obama doing kind of an apology tour all over the nation, apologizing for our people and our behavior. It's really refreshing to have President Trump, who just loves our country. And I think for me, I love our country too, and I love Virginia. So I think the other thing that I'm looking forward to being able to kind of speak into is I feel like women in politics have in some ways gotten I wouldn't say a bad rap, because in many ways it's well deserved, but we've been poorly represented on the national stage in some ways. There's been, on one side, you kind of get the identity politics and these kind of feminist women that are man hating, and they're just, most people don't like to hear from them, and I don't blame them. I don't like to hear from them either. And then on our side, sometimes you get some strong fighters, but they can sometimes be a little hard to tolerate as well. So I feel like we need some God-fearing women to step up, that love their family, love some of the more traditional values of our nation. They're not trying to be men. They're just trying to speak as patriotic women, as people who love the values that our nation was founded on, and want to stand for truth, and stand for righteousness, and stand for love of country. And so I'm hoping to just be a voice for that, a fresh voice, and to maybe help a new era come in, along with Trump and some of the other fresh faces, that we can just be authentic and not have to play this political game all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned it, because I mean, identity politics is definitely, that was a term 10, 15 years ago that wasn't even a term, but now it has crept in everything, right? Everybody wants to be a victim, and everybody wants to, people always used to say root for the underdog, but it's another thing to be an underdog and then try to spin yourself into it. And a great example is what happened yesterday in the hearing with our Secretary of Treasury, Bessent. So I don't remember her name, but he's being grilled. I think it was yesterday, maybe it was today, by this, the Senate committee, or this House committee, and this Democrat member. She was talking to him, and they were talking prices and all that stuff, and he was trying to correct her. And here she is, a member of Congress, ran for election, won, all that stuff, probably multiple times. And he is an openly gay member of the cabinet, Secretary of Treasury. He's one of, I think only right now that I know, but is definitely not hiding it. And no matter what people say about Trump and the LGBTQ community, he obviously does not care about any of that, because he picked the guy he thought was best for it. And she play victimhood and talk about, can you let me speak? I know I'm only a woman. And in that hearing, the entire hearing room, you could hear groans and just gap, and you could hear eye rolls if you could. It was just like the whole place had an audible sound to it. But she's an elected member of, she plays the, she's accomplished something only 400 something people can, and definitely a lot, women, not far the majority. And she does the whole, well, I know, only, like he's a gay man. I don't know where he falls in the pecking order, but I mean, if we're going to play the identity politics game, I think he's pretty high up there too.
Yeah.
You know,
What a
and
joke, still playing the victim and still trying to act like, a battered woman or something like that. I think people are sick of it. Um, and I think we need to continue to kind of make fun of behavior like that because it's not serious and it shouldn't be accepted.
yeah, we saw the same thing today. It was in yesterday in LA. This, these people blocking the roads, and this young black mom with kids trying to get to work. She's all dressed up to go to work, and these, these young, look like just rolled out of bed or out of their tent or something, white people.
Yeah.
Her, she's like, I need to get to work, and they were like, oh, someone said you're gonna block
Yeah.
work. She's we're like, yeah, that's contributing to society, American dream. And like, I don't know how this person affords whatever they afford, but it's just like, you're not the victim. Like this person, you want to protest. God, awesome. We have the First Amendment. We have the ability to have civil discourse, and you can truly peacefully protest. But the
Right.
second, in my opinion, you damage something, cause, anything that you could be arrested for, or disturb someone else from going about their life, it is no longer peaceful.
Yeah, and it's no longer your right because you've just violated somebody else's rights. And I
Yes.
totally agree about that guy with the man bun that was basically trying to, make fun of her and say, "Oh, I'm keeping you from going to work." Well, some people actually have to go to work and pay for their children to have food on the table, and these protesters are being paid with our taxpayer dollars, funneled through NGOs, and then they have the gall to make fun of a woman who's just trying to go to work. So
Right.
they're
And
so out of touch, and they are in their own eyes, they are so right in their own eyes and so prideful and so, morally superior that they look down on everybody else. And it's frustrating to watch.
that's why the running joke is, right? Anyone that has a coexist sticker, they're the last people to want to coexist with anybody. Right.
Yeah, no kidding. Like a couple of the symbols on that sticker want to kill everybody else on the stickers.
And they say always like, then be respectful of other people's opinions or their fates or their anything about them, right? And just
Right.
and you can be upset, you can be mad, just like many of us were during the previous administration, but it was what it was, and there's nothing we could have done about it. And except next time it came chance to go to a voting booth and hear your voice heard, enough of us did it.
Yeah, we turned out big time.
Yeah.
And now they're whining about it. But my favorite thing to do to them is to turn all their little phrases back on them. I love to say when they're being, rude and hateful as they usually are, I usually try to say, well, hate has no home here. I'll post that online. And they love that one, their little sign that they put up in all their yards and stuff. So
well,
they're so easy to pick on.
we can always drop the bless your heart, right? We can always
That's right.
draw that. Some people say, let's go Brandon. Other people say bless your heart. So you just got to figure out read between the lines where it's meant to be. But
That's right.
yeah. So when you look at this, what's happening, I mean, it started in LA, now it's spreading all over. Do you we compare that to 2020 after the George Floyd riots and all that stuff. Do you think in your personal opinion it's going to get to something to that degree, or do you think this is going to be ended sooner and hopefully violent?
Well, I mean, Trump's coming in a lot heavier this time, which I think is necessary. I know people don't like to see that, and they get concerned with federal overreach. But at the same time, when you have states completely refusing to protect their own citizens, I'm not sure, what other answer there could be other than the federal government saying, okay, you won't protect your people, we're going to protect your people. So I'm hoping that we're not going to quite see the same level of destruction. However, I know that they are very well organized, and from what I've seen, they have about, if I'm not mistaken, like 1,500 locations for protests this weekend. I know in my district, 2 of the 4 counties are going to have protests, and so we're going to see what happens. But I know that if it gets ugly, our side has a whole lot more guns, and so it's not going to last very long.
That is very true. Yeah, and a lot less man buns.
That's right.
We can those and yank them out of the way.
Yeah.
Not too many of that. Most of us on our side are bald, and that we all don't have good Cameron hair. But the but no, so I mean, yeah, when you look at that, I mean, I didn't realize we're gonna have two in that area. I mean, I heard about this No King's Day, which is funny. Our President Trump was asked about that last night, and he was, or maybe today. I can't keep the news is so fast, and he was
Yeah.
just he's not worried about that. He's like, I'm not a king. If I was a king, I'd just push everything through. He says, I have to fight like hell to get everything through.
Right.
He,
Right.
they can say that. I don't know what Soros group came up with that term and what they're going after, but I don't think they're going to get too far into the perimeter of DC during the 250th birthday celebration of the U.S. Army and Flag Day. I'm assuming that perimeter is going to be locked down pretty tight.
I think so, because my husband's working in the Trump administration still, and they're on telework tomorrow because they told him basically, hey, everything's getting locked down. Stay home. We'll see you after. So I think they are well prepared.
Are you guys planning to go see the parade?
We're not. He could have gotten tickets, but I'm at the tail end of my race here, and so I'm just spending all my free time door knocking and trying to connect with voters.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Keep your eye on the prize, and that's definitely a better use of time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Days left, but yeah, a mutual friend tried to invite me to get me to come down to it, but I've been on the road the last couple of weeks, and I was like, I'd love to come down, but yeah, I can't imagine what, especially with this No Kings thing, what they're going to try to turn that into. And it was enough to be at the last couple, or both of his inauguration. That was fun enough, but this one may be a little bit more intense. But
Yeah.
watch it on the news.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting weekend. That's for sure. I was
yes,
telling people, be careful when you're out doing your Saturday shopping. You might get a brick thrown at you and your car lit on fire, from the peaceful protesters.
yeah. So when the families are out buying the underwear and ties for Dad for Father's Day, which is
Exactly.
Sunday, I mean, you better buy online or something, and maybe
Exactly.
stay
Yeah.
out. But yeah, it's gonna be crazy with Father's Day, with that thing going on, Flag Day. Obviously, as a retired Army guy, Army birthday is near and dear to my heart too. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see how it's going. Plus, we have a big concert here in Buffalo. We've got Chris Stapleton and George Strait. So,
Oh man.
yeah, it's man, you talk about bringing of all things together. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big night here, but yeah, so I'm just oh yeah, just seeing the news reports coming across now, confirming everything that I said earlier. But yeah, so when I know some of the things back to Virginia real quick. Obviously, prior to Governor Youngkin, the schools, the school board meetings, like you
Yep.
talked about, young man, they just moved him from school to school. Where it was, is that still a hot issue in Virginia, like it was back then? Is that still something the left is really? Are they still winning on some of that stuff? I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not very smart. They still are doubling down on maybe 5% issues that have, very very few people that support them, but they're kind of all lemmings. So I guess they just go to the ballot and vote that way, anyways. But yes, that's still a big issue. 4 years ago, the way we really won in that election and have had Youngkin is because his opponent, Terry McAuliffe, foolishly said in their debate that parents, need to basically butt out of the classroom. They don't have the authority to tell teachers anything. And so it was like this perfect moment for Youngkin to just say, "Oh, really? You just said that parents don't have the authority over their kids, that teachers do." And so, but Democrats once again are kind of doubling down on the parental rights attacks, and things are heating back up in Loudoun County because for whatever reason that county just has a terrible school board, and it seems to be a constant issue up there that parents' rights are just kind of trampled on. And I'm happy for them to keep on doubling down on it because it's election year, and we need some red legislators and a red governor because we have so much chaos coming down the pipe. But we also have a gal that used to be in office a couple years ago, and one of her pieces of legislation wanted to actually send parents to jail if they didn't affirm their child's gender confusion. and she's running for re-election. She's trying to flip the district back again. And so, yeah, we have these constant issues, and I'm not sure why Democrats uh, keep thinking this is a winning issue, because most people love their kids and don't want the government telling them what to do.
Yeah, we need more 10th Amendment belief people. You talk about not being weird. I mean, I've considered myself a conservative libertarian, but unfortunately, the libertarians usually put up nothing but weird all the time. They have a hard time finding good candidates. But
Yeah.
I'm a 10th Amendment, right? And what's in the what it says, and that's it. And if it's not, it's on the states, and it's
Yep.
states right. Which again, why local elections are so important. But
Right.
do you see? Is there a movement, like for example, here in the state of New York? Obviously, it's all over the news how a lot of people are leaving New York like they're leaving California.
Hmm.
In Virginia, is there a lot? Are you seeing a movement of people, or are the people moving out of Loudoun and Fairfax counties out into the more rural areas? Are you
I
seeing to
haven't,
get
I haven't
that?
seen a movement from Loudon. We're seeing kind of the, a lot of the cuts that have been made on the federal level. People are relocating from those, but I think people are kind of holding on in this election to see which way it goes, because if we don't win, we are going to become like New York and California, and it's going to happen in a hurry. And so I would expect we would see a similar exodus. I think right now people are kind of holding on. And to tell you the truth, there's so many people that this isn't even on their radar. They're not going to realize until it's happened. And then they're going to say, how did we get here? And I'm going to say, well, you weren't paying attention. You weren't voting.
Yeah, I mean, you just go a little bit west, you get to West Virginia, probably be a little bit, or head
Yeah.
down to Kentucky. But I mean,
Or
obviously,
Tennessee.
people,
Everybody's wanting to go to Tennessee.
yeah,
So we'll see what
the
happens.
as the movie said, the Patriot state of shooting stuff. So it is,
Right.
it is
Yeah.
definitely that. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, people are rooted in their church families and their friends and their networks and that kind of stuff. They're not just going up and move. But I wasn't sure if you were seeing any kind of exodus out of the heavily blue areas, up right around the DC area.
Yeah, we when people were able to telework, we were seeing quite a bit of movement down to the rural areas. People love, the peace and quiet and a little bit more space. But now that, everybody has to go back into the office in Washington, I feel like there's been a little bit of a pause, but I'm sure we'll see it again. But as far as people giving up on Virginia, I'm hoping enough people stay and fight, because I just feel like our history here is just so special. I mean, the home of George Washington, James Madison. James Madison is actually, he was the delegate of this district, and so there's just so much beautiful history here that we want to retain, and I just don't want to see it uh, ruined by the left.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely rich in history, and as a student of history, I mean, it's one of the places I love to go to. When I was down there not too long ago, I came down to Orange County. I actually saw Cameron when I came down there, and I drove by Monticello and all that area, and I was like, yeah, man, I gotta next time I gotta swing through there and see this. It's just all these areas that you out and watch documentaries and movies, like these people get to live right here through
Right.
and whether it's there or even in Pennsylvania, and some of those areas were such I can't count the number of times my boys were younger that for their birthday weekend or wanted to go to Gettysburg, even though they'd been there before, just to
Yeah.
walk the battlefield again. It's you can feel it, and yeah, there's a lot in Virginia that to keep people there for sure.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
they
And
just
it's important for future generations that we preserve it for them. So I'm hoping we can do that.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, we've covered a lot of topics tonight. We've hit on a lot of things. You've got a lot to focus on for Tuesday. Is there anything that we talked about or that we didn't talk about? Anything you'd like to cover or like to bring up for our listeners and viewers? Of just want to let them know or just hit on?
I just appreciate them tuning in, and I just want to encourage them to, wherever they're at nationwide, just get involved locally, because the fight is coming from the left hardcore, and they don't most of them don't go to church. They invest all of their time and treasure into defeating our way of thinking and our way of living, and so we've got to come back and fight just as hard. So I just encourage everybody to stay in the fight for our country, no matter where you're at.
Awesome. Yeah, and Rob just put up he wants to see a Vance Hamilton ticket for 28. He wants to see a Marine. So,
Oh yeah.
so that if that happens, you may you may have to give up the district to become second lady or something like. I don't
That'd
know.
be all right.
I don't know if they let you do both, but no. So
I tell Nick, get back to work. I'm done with this.
that's it. But awesome. Well, hey, great to have you on. This is so. What a great family. I mean, I know you guys are just continuing to give back and serve, even though you've already served the country. Now you're serving your community, and still serving the country. And I hope people tune in, and I really hope people of District 62 step up, and all of Virginia pay attention to this, and put you over the line, and also winning not only the primary but onto the general election and represent that district, a
I
very
appreciate it.
district, as you said,
Yeah.
very well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Karen. We'll be tuned. We'll be watching, and I hope to be able to send a congrats on your way Tuesday night or Wednesday morning,
Awesome.
and let you know that we're behind you 100%. So,
All right. I appreciate that.
all right. Well, thank you for giving us some of your night, and you have a great night, and you guys have a good one, and good luck.
Yep. Let's all pray for Israel and our country as well. Yep. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right. God bless. Bye.